Ladies and gentlemen, Christian Hannah Horror here today with a Blu-ray review of what just got released today, Jeepers Creepers 3. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this movie because this movie gets a lot of flack and I think I understand why. This is the Christian Hannah Horror review of this. I'm not going to go into the detail of the movie because in case you haven't seen it, spoiler free, I don't do spoiler reviews. Here's the thing about Jeepers Creepers 3. This movie was more or less a letdown, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding Jeepers Creepers 3. In case you did not know what happened, the gentleman that directed this movie, along with the first two movies of Jeepers Creepers, the first two Jeepers Creepers, has a little bit of a bad past. Now, this is the PC version because I'm not going to dare, take a side on whether, this or that. More or less, the gentleman has a history of, for lack of a better word, I think child molestation, lewd conduct with children. I can't give you the exact, I can't tell you what the exact charge was, but this gentleman, Victor Salva, had a charge where he, did difficult things with a child and wrong things with a child. That's no dispute that they were wrong things with a child. And this happened back in 1989. Now, the charge, he had paid his sentence and done his due, but as we know, the internet was not a thing in 1989. Well, this came to fruition a couple years ago, and, some people knew about this, but more or less, when this movie got talked about, it really came out of the woodwork, his history, and has a lot of negative connotation when it came to Jeepers Creepers 3. That really affected the release of this movie. And I think it even stopped Lionsgate from picking this up. So, very limited release. I think it was a one-night situation in theaters. And a lot of people didn't like the movie. And setting all that aside, with the director and the situations that involve him, setting that aside, I'll just give you my thoughts on this movie. Here's the thing. This is... For Jeepers Creepers 3, I think it was as good as it could be. Now here's the situation. If this movie had come out, let's say, a year or two after Jeepers Creepers 2, then this is what this movie should have been exactly like. The third installment in a horror franchise. Think about that for a second. A lot of franchises, sometimes by they get to number 3 and they do it quickly, it's a little stale. The story's not quite there. Things aren't as good as you'd like them to be. It's the third installment. The magic's somewhat gone. Now, if this movie had been released in that time, let's say 2004 or 5, then this movie would have been a lot more acceptable to fans because, it would have been a quick third installment. And it would have been what would have been expected in a third installment. The problem was that this movie had years and years and years of space, a lot of build-up, a lot of talk, a lot of rumors, and I think that the expectation of this movie was a lot higher than what we received. I think that's the big problem with this movie. Some might agree with me, some might disagree. With that being said, I still find it a somewhat enjoyable film. Yeah, sure, the story is not quite there. There are questions, and sometimes I don't like answers to everything. But my questions, my question is never good if I say to myself, "What's going on?" And I don't really ever get an answer to that. I like questions like, "What's going to happen next?" or "Where did that come from?" so to speak, but not necessarily, "What am I watching?" or "What's going on?" Is this supposed to make sense? There are moments of that in this movie. But it's still the Creeper. It's still a Jeepers Creepers film. And with that being said, I think it's an okay movie. I think it's okay for a third installment. Like I said, the big issue, though, was that there was so much time and so much gap in between it that the expectations kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and people kept talking more and more and more about this movie. So I don't think it held up to what people were expecting. That's to say the least. Not necessarily what it should have been, but what people were expecting. All in all, though, it's good to have a third installment for the Jeepers Creepers franchise, and I wonder if this will be the last one. I would assume so. But with that being said, this is Christian Hannah Horror, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Please drop a comment below and tell me what you think about Jeepers Creepers 3 in the comment section. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.